Nashik. You think of Nashik. Maybe vineyards come to mind. That sort of spiritual vibe, temple bells,
Yeah.
peaceful, right?
Absolutely. It has
Uh,
that reputation, grapes, pilgrimage, a certain calmness.
yeah, exactly. But then, Tuesday night, April 15th, 2025,
Oh.
that picture just shattered. Think about Cafe Galley, usually quiet lanes. Suddenly, boom,
Keiko.
chaos.
It's a really stark contrast, isn't it? And this wasn't just some minor scuffle. It was directly tied to that Bombay High Court order about the Satpir Baba Dargah.
The one deemed unauthorized.
And what started apparently as a quiet attempt to dismantle parts of it
Hmm.
it escalated fast, turned into a major clash.
Right. So we've been looking at the reports coming out, trying to piece together what actually went down that night. We're not going to drown you in, every single tiny detail, but we want to get a feel for it. What really happened? What are the underlying tensions?
And what does it tell us, maybe, about these kinds of situations, these fault lines that can appear?
Yeah. You might have caught the headlines, but we're going to try and dive a bit deeper here. Look at what really unfolded.
Think of it as trying to understand the whole picture by looking closely at the different threads, The news reports give us those threads. We want to see the pattern.
Okay, so let's set the scene. It's late Tuesday, about 11:30 p.m. The reports say the trustees of the Dargah themselves started taking down parts of the structure.
Which is interesting in itself. Because the court order was there, the demolition by the authorities was scheduled for the next morning.
Right. The NMC, the Nashik Municipal Corporation, was meant to do the full demolition Wednesday morning.
So the trustees, starting early, maybe trying to manage it themselves, take some control, preempted the official action.
Could be. Maybe hoping for a less destructive outcome if they did it. Or maybe just acknowledging the inevitable.
Perhaps, but whatever the intention, it seems like that action itself was the spark.
Because word spread like wildfire, apparently.
Mm-hmm.
Within half an hour, so by midnight, this big crowd gathers. Usmania Chowk, near the Dargah.
And not just onlookers. Reports describe a very agitated crowd. People were clearly upset.
You can just picture it, right? That sudden gathering in the middle of the night. The energy must have been intense.
It suggests strong feelings about the Dargah, regardless of its legal status, and, well, a certain level of organization, perhaps, to mobilize that quickly.
Could be.
Yeah.
And then it turns violent. The reports talk about miscreants, a mob, basically, armed with stones, clearly there to stop any demolition.
Now, the police were ready, to some extent. Over 500 officers were deployed beforehand.
That's a significant presence. They obviously anticipated potential trouble.
They did. And the commissioner of police, Sandeep Karnik, his statement was quite telling. He basically said the trustees' actions were the trigger.
Right, that attempt to dismantle it themselves, kick things off.
Yeah. And he added something really striking, that even some Muslim leaders who were there trying to calm the crowd down, they were attacked too.
Wow. Attacked by the mob they were trying to pacify.
That's what was reported. It suggests the anger was just raw, maybe not even entirely focused, a real outburst.
Yeah, that really paints a picture. So the police are facing this barrage of stones. They had to respond.
Naturally. And that's when the lengthy charges started, the tear gas shells. Standard crowd control tactics in that kind of situation.
You can almost hear it, can't you? The shouts, the chaos, the sting of the tear gas in those narrow streets.
It sounds like a situation that just got out of hand very quickly. De-escalation failed or wasn't possible, and they moved to dispersal tactics.
And the cost was real. 21 police officers injured. That includes 2 assistant commissioners.
Senior officers injured, yeah. That tells you something about the intensity.
Plus 3 police vehicles damaged. So this was serious resistance.
Definitely. It shows the level of force the mob was using. Throwing stones hard enough to injure that many officers and damage vehicles, It was a proper clash.
Deputy Commissioner Kiran Kumar Chavan mentioned later they tried reasoning first, tried to pacify.
The standard approach, talk first.
But it didn't work. So then they used what he called mild force, which, context matters.
Yeah.
That's the lengthy charge and tear gas we're talking about.
That's often the official phrasing, isn't it? Mild force to restore order. But yeah, for those on the receiving end, it might not feel very mild.
Anyway, by dawn, early Wednesday morning, the crowd had finally dispersed. The immediate confrontation was over.
Suggesting the police action, however described, did achieve the short-term goal of clearing the area.
Okay, so the sun comes up on Wednesday. Around 6 a.m., the Nashik Municipal Corporation, the NMC, moves in.
And they came prepared this time, no messing around?
No. 4 earth excavators, 6 trucks, 2 dumpers, a 50-person crew. A serious setup.
Clearly signaling This is happening now. After the night's violence, they needed to show resolve and force the court order decisively.
And they were fast. The reports say that structure, which had been there for decades,
Yeah, a long time.
was reduced to rubble in just a few hours.
Quite the contrast to the resistance the night before. Shows the difference when it's an organized state operation versus a spontaneous, though forceful, mob.
It really does. The speed is remarkable. Element of surprise, maybe, plus overwhelming force.
And remember, this wasn't the first time they'd tried clearing things there.
Ah, right. Back in February 2025. They cleared some encroachments around the Dargah, but left the main building.
Exactly. Which, in hindsight, maybe sent the wrong signal. Perhaps people thought the main structure was safe after that.
That's a really interesting point. Did that partial action actually make this final demolition seem more sudden or shocking to some, leading to a stronger reaction?
It's possible. It might have created a false sense of security or maybe a belief that resistance could work again.
And the legal backdrop to all this, just to reiterate, was that Bombay High Court order. It was ruled unauthorized.
And the NMC followed procedure. They served a 15-day notice to the trust on April 1st.
Giving them until the 15th, the day before the scheduled demolition, to remove it themselves?
So it wasn't out of the blue. The legal clock was ticking. The trustees knew. Their attempt to start dismantling it shows they knew.
Okay, so demolition complete. What happens next immediately after?
Well, arrests, or detentions initially. 15 people were picked up, suspected of being involved in the violence, maybe inciting it.
And they seized a lot of motorcycles, too.
57, according to the reports. Probably the main way many people got there quickly that night. Standard procedure, gather evidence, identify ringleaders.
And the police, DCP Sivan again, were quick to say things were peaceful and under control by Wednesday.
You'd expect that. Reassurance is key after something like this. Restore calm, show the authorities are in charge, even if tensions are still high under the surface.
And the reports kept mentioning the injured officers, the damaged vehicles, reinforcing the severity of what happened.
And Catholic Alley itself, lots of police still around, right? Traffic diversions.
Yeah, heavy surveillance, altered routes, a clear sign things were still considered sensitive even after the structure was gone.
Standard precautionary measures, don't want any flare-ups.
So let's dig into the backstory a bit, because these things don't just happen in a vacuum, do they?
Rarely. There's usually a history.
So Satpir Baba Dargah, decades old, had local religious meaning for some, but its legal status was always murky.
Which is common, right? Structures go up. Sometimes without full authorization, they become part of the landscape. People get attached.
Yeah, part of the fabric of the place. But then legality catches up.
And apparently, complaints have been coming in for years. From local residents, also from Hindu organizations, saying it was unauthorized, blocking public space.
So this wasn't a new fight. It had been simmering. Different groups in the community had different views.
For sure. It wasn't just a legal issue in isolation. It was about land use, maybe access, different community perspectives clashing.
And that partial demolition back in February seems like it just stirred the pot more. MLA Divyani Frande called it incomplete.
Right. She was quite vocal, demanding the whole site be cleared, reflecting the views of those who wanted it gone completely, adds a political layer.
And then there was that proposal from the Sakal Hindu Samaj, suggesting a Hanuman temple be built there instead.
Whoa, okay. That definitely raises the stakes, doesn't it? That moves it beyond just clearing an unauthorized structure.
Absolutely. That becomes about changing the religious identity of the space. Hugely sensitive. Potential flashpoint right there.
Understandably, that kind of proposal, whatever the intent, can easily fuel anxieties and increase communal tension.
Plus, the location itself. Catholic Alley is right on the Pune Highway, a busy route.
So there's a practical angle, too. Urban planning, traffic flow. Any obstruction there would be a headache for commuters and city planners.
So you've got legal issues, religious feelings, community friction, political pressure, and practical traffic problems all converging on this one spot.
It's a complex mix. And this whole thing, it fits into a bigger picture in Maharashtra and actually across India.
The crackdown on unauthorized religious structures.
Exactly. Following Supreme Court guidelines from, 2019, and various local court orders, the NMC notice in Nashik wasn't isolated. It was part of this wider enforcement effort.
So Nashik is like a case study almost, a microcosm of this national challenge, balancing law, order, religious sentiment, community feelings.
It's a very, very delicate balance. How do you enforce the law, especially court orders, when it clashes with deeply held beliefs and long-standing practices? There are no easy answers.
And predictably, the politics kicked in immediately. Sanjay Raut from Shiv Sena, UBT, he accused the BJP of actually engineering the violence.
Right, claiming it was done deliberately to stir up communal trouble, a very serious charge.
It shows how quickly these incidents get sucked into political battles, doesn't it? Different sides crafting their narratives.
It's almost standard practice, unfortunately. Highlights the volatile political climate around these kinds of issues.
And you have MLA Farandi's earlier stance pushing for demolition, the Hindu group's proposals. It all feeds into this complex narrative. It's not just a simple administrative action.
No, definitely not. All those pre-existing positions and statements show the tangled web of interests involved. Social, religious, political. All playing out.
But if we just step back from the law and the politics for a second.
Yeah.
The human cost. Those 21 injured cops.
Doing their job, facing real danger.
The 15 people detained, facing charges now. Their lives changed overnight.
Absolutely. And the residents of Kathak Gali living through that chaos, the fear, the disruption.
Yeah, their neighborhood turned into a conflict zone.
We shouldn't forget them. And think about the trustees, too, caught in the middle.
Between the court order and their community's feelings.
Yeah.
A terrible position.
And the NMC workers who had to actually operate the machinery, knowing the tensions. It's a tough job.
It really drives home that. Well, nobody really won't here, did they?
Okay.
The order was carried out, yes, but there were injuries, arrests, damage, and probably a lot of lingering anger and distrust.
That's a really important point. Enforcing the law, in this case, came with a significant social cost. It might have resolved the legal issue of the structure, but it created or deepened other problems within the community.
So when we look back at everything, what really stands out, for me, it's the raw power of that crowd, how quickly emotion took over.
Yeah, the volatility, and how sensitive the timing and handling of these things are. The trustees' action, meant perhaps to help, backfired spectacularly.
It underlines that fundamental tension, doesn't it? Law versus deeply felt belief, court orders versus community attachment.
It's the central drama, and Nashik is just one example of this playing out across the country. It highlights how hard it is for authorities to navigate this.
So in the end, Nashik reminds us how complex things are. Law was enforced, yes, but the social fabric, that feels strained. The mob expressed anger, but faced consequences. The residents are left picking up the pieces.
And it leaves you wondering, what's next for Kathak Gali? How does a community heal after this? Can they? What needs to happen to prevent it recurring?
Big questions. And it makes you think, what will go into that empty space now? And more broadly, how do we as a society handle these clashes better? When legal rules meet deeply personal faith, it's something to really chew on.